Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a real weather mystery that unfolded over North India. This past March, people were pulling out their jackets at a time they should have been thinking about t-shirts. So what exactly happened? Well, it turns out the answer really depends on who you ask, and the explanations couldn't be more different.
So let's just set the scene. It all started with a really simple observation. It was cold, like unseasonably cold and wet. In a month that's supposed to be warming up for summer, North India got hit with these chilly winds and big storms. It was just weird enough to get everybody talking and asking, what is going on?
News outlets even started calling it a mini monsoon, and that term really captures just how bizarre this whole thing felt on the ground. This wasn't just some light spring shower, it felt like a whole seasonal weather pattern had shown up at completely the wrong time of year.
Right, so this is where things get really interesting, because this wasn't just about the weather anymore. It blew up into this battle of two totally different stories. A single weather event ended up sparking a huge global debate that just took off online.
So on one hand, you've got the official scientific take, right? The one that's backed by meteorologists and climate science. And on the other hand, a viral theory that claims this was all done on purpose, a deliberate man-made intervention in our climate, maybe even run by some of the most powerful people out there.
Okay, so let's dig into the first explanation, the one coming from the world of meteorology. This is the story you'll hear from weather scientists, and it's all based on atmospheric data and patterns they've been studying for decades.
So what did the meteorologists say was going on? Well, they pointed to this thing called a Western Disturbance. And look, this isn't some crazy new phenomenon. It's a pretty well-understood weather pattern. Basically, storm systems form over the Mediterranean, travel east, and bring that much-needed winter rain and snow to North India.
But, and this is a big but, this wasn't your average Western disturbance. Not at all. This one was unusually intense. It was dumping moderate to heavy rain on the plains and just blanketing the hills with a ton of snow. For March, that didn't just feel strange. It felt like winter decided to make a dramatic comeback.
So you might be asking, okay, why was it so intense all of a sudden? Well, a lot of experts are pointing their fingers at a much bigger problem: climate change. The science is actually pretty simple. A warmer atmosphere is like a bigger sponge. It can hold way more moisture. So when a storm system like this rolls through, it's just supercharged, carrying more fuel, which leads to the crazy amount of rain we saw.
All right, now let's completely flip the script and look at the other explanation, the one that took over social media. This theory basically throws the whole natural weather idea right out the window. It suggests that what happened in North India was completely manufactured, part of some huge, secret experiment.
This whole theory is built around an idea called solar geoengineering. And here's the thing, this isn't complete science fiction. It's a real, though super controversial, field of climate research. Scientists are actually exploring these radical ideas to fight global warming, basically by creating an artificial sun shield for the entire planet.
So how would this even work, according to the theory? Well, this slide breaks it down. First, you've got planes flying way up into the stratosphere. That's the upper layer of our atmosphere, and they release this fine mist of chemical particles called aerosols. Then, those particles spread out, creating this thin, reflective layer that literally bounces sunlight back into space, cooling the planet down.
Okay, so who's behind all this? This is where Bill Gates' name gets thrown into the ring. The theory points to his foundation's funding of climate research, including a well-known, though small-scale, Harvard experiment called SCOPEX. That's short for Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment. For people who believe the theory, that's the smoking gun that links him to these alleged large-scale operations. And, the people who believe this theory are sounding some serious alarm bells. We're talking about some pretty scary consequences. They claim that if we dim the sun, we could see widespread vitamin D deficiency. They also worry about heavy metals from these aerosols raining down, causing all sorts of health problems and poisoning our food supply. So for a lot of people who buy into this theory, the evidence, well, is literally right there in the sky. The whole debate often comes down to those long white lines you see trailing behind airplanes. And that brings us to two very important and very different terms. And this slide really gets to the core of the whole debate. On one side, you have contrails. That's short for condensation trails. Science says these are just harmless ice crystals, formed when hot, humid jet exhaust hits the freezing cold air way up high. But on the other side, you have chemtrails, chemical trails. This term alleges those lines are not water vapor at all, but the actual chemicals being sprayed as part of a secret geoengineering program. Now, it's really important we don't get this mixed up with something called cloud seeding.
Cloud seeding is a real thing, it's a proven technology, but it's a very localized tool. It's used to, say, boost snowfall over one specific mountain range. It's not capable of creating massive, state-sized storm systems out of nothing. It's a totally different beast.
So, okay, we're left with two totally different realities to explain the exact same event: a powerful natural storm or a secret, man-made experiment. What are we supposed to make of all this? What can we learn from this crazy clash of stories?
You know, this whole thing in North India, it's like a perfect case study for the world we live in right now. It shows how, in an age of instant information, any unusual event can just become this battleground for competing realities. One story is rooted in science, the other in online theories that spread faster than the weather itself. It really taps into our desire for easy answers to tough questions.
So let's just do a quick side-by-side recap. You've got the scientific view, an intense storm supercharged by climate change, with meteorological data as the proof. And then you've got the viral theory, artificial weather manipulation, part of a secret project with those so-called chemtrails as the visual evidence. And that really leaves us with the biggest question of all, doesn't it? In a world where we're just flooded with information, where a simple rainstorm can create two dueling realities, the biggest challenge isn't just figuring out what happened in the sky. It's figuring out how we, as individuals, decide which story we're going to believe. And what does that choice really say about the world we live in today?